Okay, so I'm recording this literally the same day that I recorded 9 through 12 just because I felt like finishing up this section. So this is going to be chapters 13 through 16 from Lily's point of view. So, Lily and Matt just got engaged. So now it's time for like all the parents and all the families to get together for somewhat of a rehearsal dinner, but maybe like a pre-rehearsal dinner because these people are really rich. um, Lily's parents meet Matt's parents, and White Lily, the one from before, is planned the whole thing because main character Lily doesn't seem to give a rat's ass about any of this. She's just like, I don't know how to put up anything that seems even remotely correct for this atmosphere. So she lets White Lily plan everything, how people will dress, what they're going to eat, what the event's going to look like, all of that. And Matt's first time meeting Lily's parents, the dad is nice. Lily's dad is nice, but Lily's mom is seems very uninterested and like ready to go. Like when you take a toddler somewhere and they're behaving well, but they don't want to be there. That's essentially how I imagine Lily's mom just sitting there like petulant. I think that's the word. I'm not gonna fact check it. She's petulantly sitting there waiting for it to end. Waiting for it to end. I can enunciate. Um, and then eventually the mom whispers to Lily's dad and they make up an excuse to leave, like, oh, she's not feeling well. And Lily doesn't talk to her mom anymore after that until the wedding. And everyone shows up except for Lily's mom. And she's like kind of stressed about it, but then eventually she sees her mom and her mom nods at her and then she walks down the aisle and they get married. And honestly, blah 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 blah. I'm not super invested in Lily and Matt's marriage, so I honestly don't care too much because honestly, it's not that interesting. It's not like a fun, goofy love story. It's just kind of like a real love story. And I have a lot of issues when I'm reading fiction that feels too realistic. So this is just a personal me problem. Um, but yeah, they honeymoon in Greece. They have a great time. They make promises to one another that they're going to communicate, that no resentment will build up, and that they won't abandon each other. Like all the things you promise to each other when you're in the good times that you might not necessarily be able to keep up with when you're going through the bad times. But it's a nice sentiment. It's a nice thought. It's a good hope. Um, after their honeymoon, Lily's mom puts Lily's dad in assisted living, and Lily is super happy, as most newlyweds are, and it's just like, can I be more happy? Let's have a baby, because like that's a natural step. And she gets pregnant, and she miscarries, and then she gets pregnant, and she miscarries again. And then these are super rich people. They can get the best doctors known to man. And they find out that it's like a chromosomal issue, which is causing her to miscarry the children. So they decide to do IVF after getting recommended by I think Matt's sister who's done it. So this way they can um, fertilize the eggs and test them for potential issues before they get implanted in Lily's body. And when I was reading this, I was like, it's already getting kind of weird because she's doing IVF, and these are like super rich people that own a pharmaceutical company. Like, what's gonna happen with the IVF? But then nothing happens. That's the end of chapter 14. Chapter 15. 7-month pregnant Lily is still going month by month, hoping to not lose the baby. And she decides to follow Matt to Beijing because I think the doctor said she could travel all the way up to 8 months. And Matt is in Beijing because he's finally taken over his dad's pharmaceutical company and he has to travel a lot. So, oftentimes than not, Lily travels with him. And when they go to Beijing, he's in a lot of work meetings. But she's gone because her family's from China and she's trying to get closer to her culture, her history, see what she can find or pick apart to be as close as possible. Because, like, her parents came over here and didn't teach her anything, basically left her like Americanized and kind of like with a hole in her heart for what she should have been, or I guess what she feels like she missed out on. So yeah, she explores the city, hoping to get in some insight for her heritage. She fits in because she's an Asian woman, and she fits in China because her parents are Chinese. So in a perfect world, if they had lived there, she would fit in physically. But when she goes to talk, she doesn't speak. I think they say Mandarin. She doesn't speak Mandarin, and that's when they know she's American. And then she's like, I don't fit in here either. I don't fit in America. I don't fit in Beijing. There's always just a little bit off about me. So she just kind of wanders around, and eventually she feels bad for like a lot of the poverty she sees. So she hands out all the money in her purse to people on the streets. And eventually she makes her way to the university that her parents went to. And while she's there, trying to feel connected to them, she gets handed a cake. And because she doesn't speak the language, she can't tell them, I don't want this cake. This isn't my cake. So eventually she runs into this man named Ping. And she's like, do you speak English? And he's like, I do, after a long pause. And he's got an accent because how often do you really get to practice English in a country where not a lot of people speak English? And she finds out that Ping knows her mom because he's like, you look just like your mom. And he tells her how they were friends and how they stole a lotus seed that his mom eventually swallowed, which, if you remember, is literally like the first page of this book, where there's a story about the two people who steal a lotus seed and then run off into the night after almost being caught. Um, Ping asked Lily to give her mom a letter. And yeah, he kind of notes that Lily is a real American when he meets her. Like, she doesn't speak Chinese. She doesn't have any mannerisms. Like, she is a real American. And he almost marvels over it. How someone who looks so much like she belongs there feels American to him. And yeah, eventually Lily goes home. And while she's people watching from her little penthouse hotel room, wherever she's at, she goes into labor and she has a baby. Baby's name is Nico, and he's white. You know that meme, whose white baby is this? Yeah, this is a white baby. He's got light hair and blue eyes, and he looks like Matthew. And she's so confused because she's like, whose baby is this when they give it to her? And they're just like, ma'am, you're the only person in this Chinese hospital who has a white baby. This is your white baby. And they're just like, and honestly, Lily's very confused and just like, I guess this is my baby. And she takes them home. Um, yeah. And he stays in, I guess she doesn't take him home immediately. He stays in NICU for a little bit. And then they go back home. And when they get back home, Jenny, their cleaner, is there with her two kids. And she's like, I'm so sorry. My husband ran off 2 days ago. And usually he comes back home in the middle of the night, but it's been 2 days. And they're just like, it's okay. You can stay here. And Matt's like, I'm going to see if I can find your husband. Because, he has connections. And Lily, feeling super nosy, asks Jenny to translate the letter that Ping gave her for her mom. And the letter basically says, I forgive you. I have a family now. I just wonder how many people you've hurt along the way. And Lily is very confused about this because she's like, what relationship did Ping have with my mom? Were they dating? Like, what is this? And she's just like, yeah, thank you, Jenny. I'm going to give the letter to my mom. I just want to know what it was about. She's never going to give that letter to her mom. And that's the end of chapter 15. Chapter 16, Lily's mom comes to stay because you need a village when you have a baby. Like, you need community. It's one thing we've gotten away from in at least American society. They think you should be able to do everything all on your own, and that is not necessarily true. Honestly, I think that's really bad for your mental health if you do that. So Mom comes over, she brings with her all these Chinese tonics, and she only speaks Mandarin around the baby. And Lily feels left out, but also comforted because this is the culture and heritage she'd been looking for. And she thinks it's good that Nico's hearing it, that he gets to hear the language as a baby. But she's very, like, almost shell shocked because her mom's never been this Chinese, this person that she's never met before. And Lily's mom and Jenny talk, and they're loud and they're boisterous and they laugh and they seem to be having like a jovial time. And then Lily asks them to translate, and then when they translate, it just kind of comes off as like stale. So like imagine if I was just like and then you asked me to translate it, and I'm just like, yeah, the man walked across the street. Like it's lost in translation. And Lily starts to wonder if maybe the person that she's known this whole time is not her mom because like she seems to be most herself when she's speaking her language. Um and she's like, I really feel like my mom withheld something from me when she was growing up as like an American child. Um, Eventually, Matt's parents come with a bunch of overly priced gifts for the baby, and they meet Nico. And Lily notices something weird between Matt's dad, Otto, and her mom. And she just kind of is on high alert. She's just like, well, I can't really start anything right now. But she does notice that sometimes when she goes to check on the baby, her mom and Otto are like arguing or like having hushed conversations. Like they know each other. And Lily's very concerned and wondering like what else her mom is keeping from her. So to get more information, she takes the baby and Jenny to Florida to visit her dad in the assisted living facility. And the dad is kind of all over the place. But he says Otto and her mom are the same, as if the dad knows Otto as well. But then he kind of goes out of I don't know how to describe it when like a dementia patient isn't their self anymore. Like oh, 1 minute he's self, 1 minute he's himself, and then the next minute he's kind of like mean or off. He just is off. Like you meet someone and they're not themselves. And throughout all of this, I mean, I already thought in the beginning that something was really wrong about her marrying into this pharmaceutical company and then doing IVF. But now with all of this stuff coming out and her mom being very big on the science that she did, and now she knows Otto, the story's starting to give Rosemary's Baby. If you know the story of Rosemary's Baby, it's essentially this woman's husband joins a cult and they let her get impregnated by the devil, but she thinks she's pregnant by her husband. And this story is almost like a weird twist. It's giving the vibe of being a weird twist where this baby that Lily gave birth to isn't her baby. It's just Matt's baby and I guess someone else's genetics, or it's just a clone of Matt. I haven't put it all together, or like it's another person's baby because it doesn't look anything like her. Like she had a white baby and she's Asian. And I'm not saying Asian people and white people don't have babies that look just white, but they usually have some traits. Even I'm sure some don't. Genetics are crazy. But she's very um aware, self-conscious of what's going on. So, back to the story. Lily goes back with Jenny to her parents' house and she breaks into her mom's office and she calls Matt scared because she can't trust anyone. But eventually she's just like, well, I can't tell you what's wrong. Nothing's wrong. I'm okay. And she doesn't find anything in her mom's office when she breaks into her mom's office, just a bunch of letters and like a half eating sandwich. And then she's like, well, I guess all I have to look back on is me. My mom and Otto know each other. I wonder if I know Otto. So she's like going back at her memory and she's remembering her childhood. And she's remembered being in a room at 3 years old and being scared. And then she remembers her mom there, and that's who she's scared of. But behind her is Otto, and she doesn't remember being scared of him. And the way I imagined it was almost like Stranger Things, like 11 in the like testing facilities where they kept her at, and then her papa being the one that's like that she trusts. I don't know if that makes sense. But that's kind of what I imagined when I read that chapter. And that's the end of part one from Lily's point of view. If you flip the page, it says the next point of view is in 2021. So we've skipped 14, 15 ish years. And the person's point of view is Nick. And we're pretty sure Nick is Nico. So that's what we have to look forward to. That's the end of part one. Um, it's gotten more interesting. So I'm going to say like 2.9 out of 5. It's gone up. I'm still not super interested in like picking up the book and like reading it quickly. But now there's like mystery and drama involved, and it's less of like a love story and less of like a self reflection type thing. Like it's becoming multifaceted. So that makes it more interesting. So yeah, 2.9 out of 10. Excited slash not excited to read the rest. Bye.